It was a quiet evening in the town of Willowbrook. The sun was going down slowly, painting the sky with soft orange and pink colors. The air was cool, and the sound of birds filled the streets. Maya, a young woman of 24, walked alone on the narrow road. She was carrying a small bag, and her steps were slow. She had not returned to this place for many years. But now, she was back. Her grandmother's house stood at the end of the street. It was an old wooden house, painted white long ago. The paint had faded, and the windows looked dusty. Yet the house still felt warm, almost alive, like it had been waiting for her. Maya stopped at the gate. She closed her eyes for a moment. Her heart was beating fast. So many memories lived inside this house. Memories of laughter, of stories, of love. But also memories of pain. She pushed the gate open. The sound of rusty hinges broke the silence. Step by step, she walked toward the front door. She touched the door gently, as if greeting an old friend. Then, she turned the key. Inside, the house smelled of old books, wooden floors, and dried flowers. The air was heavy, but familiar. Maya felt her chest tighten. Her grandmother had raised her here until she was 12. After that, she moved away with her parents to the city. Life became busy, and visits grew rare. And then, her grandmother passed away. Maya looked around the living room. The furniture was still the same. The brown sofa, the round table, the lamp with soft yellow light. On the shelf were books and small photographs. She saw a picture of herself as a child, smiling with her grandmother. Her eyes filled with tears. She walked deeper into the house. Each step brought back a memory. The sound of her grandmother humming. The smell of fresh bread in the morning. The warmth of sitting by the fire on cold nights. But then she stopped. On the table in the corner, there was something unusual. A small wooden box. It was locked with a tiny silver key still inside the lock. Maya's hands trembled as she touched it. Her grandmother never told her about this box. She slowly opened it. Inside was a folded letter, yellow with age. Her name was written on it, in her grandmother's handwriting. Maya gasped softly. Her heart pounded louder. With shaky hands, she picked up the letter. She held it close, as if holding her grandmother again. The house was quiet. Only the ticking of the old clock filled the air. Maya sat down on the sofa. She took a deep breath. And then, she began to open the letter. Maya's hands shook as she unfolded the letter. The paper was old and soft, almost ready to break. Her grandmother's handwriting was neat and gentle. It felt like her grandmother was speaking to her again. She began to read slowly. My dear Maya. If you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. Do not be sad, my child. I am always near you, in your heart. Maya stopped. Her eyes were wet, and she took a deep breath. The words felt heavy, but also warm. She continued reading. When you were little, you filled this house with laughter. You ran through the garden, you sang to the birds, you smiled at the stars. I kept every memory safe, like a treasure. Maya smiled softly. She remembered chasing butterflies in the garden. She remembered sitting in her grandmother's lap, listening to stories. Her chest ached, but the memories also gave her comfort. The letter went on. But life is not always easy, Maya. There are days of light, and days of shadow. I know you have felt lonely sometimes. I know you have asked, why does it hurt? But remember this, pain does not last forever. Even the coldest night will end, and the sun will rise again. Maya wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Her grandmother always spoke like that, simple but deep. Every word seemed to touch her soul. The letter continued. In the wooden box, I left something for you. It is small, but it carries a piece of my heart. It will guide you when you feel lost. Maya looked inside the box again. Under the letter, wrapped in a soft cloth, was a silver locket. She lifted it carefully. It shone in the dim light of the room, even after so many years. Her fingers opened the locket. Inside was a tiny picture of her as a child, holding hands with her grandmother. On the other side were 2 words, written in delicate letters. Stay strong. Maya held the locket close to her chest. Tears ran down her face, but her lips curved into a small smile. It felt as if her grandmother was hugging her once more. Then she read the last lines of the letter. My sweet Maya, promise me one thing. Do not let sadness stop you from living. Walk forward. Dream again. Love again. And when you feel weak, touch this locket. I will be with you. Maya closed the letter slowly. She sat in silence, listening to the sound of her own heartbeat. The room felt warmer now, as if her grandmother's spirit was near. She whispered softly, I promise, Grandma. I promise. The night passed slowly in the old house. Maya could not sleep. She lay awake, holding the silver locket in her hand. Her grandmother's words kept repeating in her mind. Stay strong. Walk forward. Dream again. When the first light of morning touched the window, Maya got up. She opened the back door and stepped outside. The garden stretched before her, silent and still. Weeds had grown tall, and the flowers looked tired. But the shape of the garden was still there. The stone path, the old swing, the apple tree in the corner. All were waiting, like old friends. Maya walked slowly down the path. Every step brought back a memory. She remembered her grandmother planting roses by the fence. She remembered laughing as she watered the flowers with a small bucket. She remembered falling from the swing, and her grandmother rushing to hold her. The garden was not just a place. It was a book of her childhood, written in colors and scents. Maya sat under the apple tree. The bark was rough, but the air was sweet. She closed her eyes and let the wind touch her face. For a moment, she felt like a little girl again. Then she whispered, Grandma, I am here. A gentle breeze passed through the branches, making the leaves dance. It felt like an answer. Tears filled Maya's eyes, but this time they were not only tears of sadness. They were also tears of love. As she sat there, she opened the letter again. She read one line over and over. Even the coldest night will end, and the sun will rise again. Her heart felt lighter. For many years, Maya had been afraid to dream. Life in the city was busy, lonely, and sometimes painful. She often felt like something was missing. Now she understood, what was missing was not outside her. It was inside her. It was the strength her grandmother always wanted her to have. Maya looked at the locket once more. She placed it around her neck. The silver touched her skin, warm and alive. She smiled softly. She whispered again, Thank you, Grandma. I will stay strong. The sun rose higher, spreading light over the garden. The flowers seemed to lift their heads, as if waking from sleep. Maya stood up. She brushed the dust from her dress and took a deep breath. For the first time in years, she felt ready. Ready to face the world. Ready to walk forward. Her grandmother's love was still with her, and it always would be. The days passed quietly in Willowbrook. Maya stayed in her grandmother's house for a little while. Each morning she walked through the rooms, touching the walls and smiling at the memories. Each evening she sat by the window, holding the silver locket close to her heart. Slowly, her sadness began to change. It did not disappear, but it became softer. It turned into something gentle, something that gave her strength. Her grandmother's voice, though gone, seemed to guide her every day. One afternoon, Maya cleaned the garden. She pulled out the weeds, watered the flowers, and painted the old swing. As she worked, children from the neighborhood came to watch. They laughed and asked if they could help. Maya smiled and said, "Of course." Soon, the garden was alive again. The children ran along the stone path, just like she once did. Their laughter filled the air, mixing with the songs of birds. The house, which once felt lonely, was now filled with joy again. That night, Maya sat in the living room. She opened her notebook and began to write. She wrote about her childhood, her grandmother, and the lessons she had learned. She wrote about love, about strength, and about hope. The words came slowly at first, but then they flowed like water. It felt as if her grandmother was helping her write each line. When she finished, she closed the notebook and whispered, "This is only the beginning." The next morning, Maya stood outside the house. The sun was bright, and the sky was clear. She looked at the gate, the road, and the world beyond. For the first time in many years, she was not afraid. She touched the locket on her chest. She remembered the last words of the letter. "Do not let sadness stop you from living. Dream again. Love again." Maya took a deep breath. She smiled. And then she stepped forward. The old house stood behind her, not as a place of pain, but as a place of love. It was no longer only her past. It was her strength, her foundation. As she walked down the road, she whispered softly, "Grandma, I will make you proud." And with that promise, Maya's new journey began.